Hi, everyone. It's Lisa from Been There, Got Out. And today's guest just told me that he has a checkered past. So I just learned that he's very talented in musical theater. He plays Celtic music, and I am going to listen to his CD as soon as we finish our book manuscript. But the reason we have him on today is not for either of those two things, even though it's very tempting to get distracted with them, but instead his hat as a psychologist and someone who's really experienced with families dealing with all kinds of divorce, but especially the kind that we deal exclusively with, which is high conflict. And today we wanted to talk about the impact of conflict on children in the midst of this. So before you even officially introduce yourself, David, can you tell us a little bit about how to tell if a child is being adversely affected by a parent's divorce?
Yes, the question is actually multifaceted. Depends on the age of the child, to tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Child development has a lot to do with how children react and perceive high conflict divorce. Very young children, they're not really aware of what's going on, but they can actually feel the tension.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I tell parents that I see who are going through a divorce with young children that, you can pick up a child, an infant, and if you're tense, they cry. I mean, children are exquisitely aware of how their parents feel. All right. Um, so, in a very young child, if the parents they feel the tension, this goes through like age 4. I mean, they'll feel the tension, but they won't really understand why. And one of the difficulties with that kind of a situation is because since they don't understand why, and parents are often arguing about parenting, the children can actually take it on that it's their fault
Mm-hmm.
that their parents are arguing. Now, this can have one of the questions you asked me before we started was long-term effects of something like that. And there is. Children who are young like that don't understand, and they need their parents to be okay if they're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any parent would know this. So if their parents are not okay, they try to find a way to make them okay. And this is where young children take on the role of the pleaser, the appeaser, the placater, sometimes the messenger, which is really detrimental.
Mm-hmm.
The point here is that they take on a role that's not them. I call it a not me situation. And because of that, this role can actually play out into adulthood. I saw a young man who I had seen when he was 10, and he was the appeaser between fighting parents. All right. And he came to me as an adult because he was really troubled with depression and in a relationship with a woman who was extremely high maintenance. And when we talked about it, I even had the notes from when he was a kid. I have everything on the computer, so I saw the notes of what he was used to do.
Wow.
And he was now 30, you know what I mean? So I've been at it a long time, Lisa, what can I say? And he realized with me that he was still playing out that role. He
Mm-hmm.
was trying to appease this woman, and he was suffering from something that is a term called empty depression. I don't know if you've heard that
Now,
term
empty
before.
depression?
Empty depression is where a person is depressed because they have no idea who they really are. They
Mm.
just feel empty. And that's because they've been playing this role and never really individuated and figured out what they were really all about. And that was his treatment, trying to figure out what he was all about. He left that relationship because, his eyes went, whoa, I'm doing it again,
Yeah.
and he found another woman. He's now married, has a house and a child, I hear from him every once in a while. He's much, much happier.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so this, it's a shame he had to go through that. Older children, before the tweens, they are more aware that their parents are fighting. you know they don't like it. Sometimes they can take on that role as well. They'll even step between the parents and say, don't do that, I mean, that kind of thing, because they're more verbal than very young children. Same problem though, they can be taking on a role, only their difficulties become more so because they're trying to begin to spread their wings,
Mm-hmm.
especially when they're getting near the tweens. And they don't feel like they can because they have to always be careful about this, that, or the other. It becomes extremely difficult for them and into the tweens because they really can't talk to their parents about how they feel about the situation safely.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because they tell mom how they had a good time with dad. Mom gets upset. Vice versa. I'm sure you're familiar with this, Lisa. And
Absolutely. This is what our book is
yeah,
about.
and there you go. Exactly. And so it's unsafe for them to talk about it. Now, what parents need to realize, especially the ones that are in high conflict, is that their children love both parents. Okay. And when they can't talk about, hey, I had a good time at dad's or mom was really cool because they're afraid of the reaction, they 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 don't have anybody to talk to about how they feel about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes a difficulty because, especially going into the tweens and the teens, there's all these issues of individuation and becoming their own people, and they don't turn to their parents because especially when they get to the teens, and their parents are just a pain in the neck. You know what I mean? And
Right.
you know, yeah, so it becomes difficult. Uh, there's a lot more to the child development part, but I don't know if we really want to go into that. You want to focus on this. There's a development of an emotional language. How to help children deal with intense emotions. That's all early on
Mm-hmm.
in child development. And what I tell parents with the teens, let me finish with the teens. Often they're outwardly focused anyway. Their parents are a pain in the neck. Parents are a pain in the neck to teens anyway. But more so in this situation. And so they'll turn to their peers who are going through something similar. The difficulty with the younger children, and this is, I'm sure you want to get into, is the fact that because they need their parents to be okay, they do all this stuff to make them okay. And they're very susceptible to how the parents see things. And now we're getting into the question of divided loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that's a term we're all familiar with here.
Yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit just in case people are not familiar.
Should I talk about it now, you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why not?
Okay. This has nothing to do with Celtic music or musical theater. I can tell you that right now.
That's okay.
Okay. Okay. Add a little humor to this hard conversation we're
I
having here.
know.
Okay. Divided loyalty is basically when parents have two very different perceptions of what's going on. And typically it's a negative perception of the other parent, which is probably why they got divorced in the first place, why they were in conflict. So they express that to the child. So the child is getting two different versions of the same thing, basically. And they don't know, especially younger children, they know that parents are not okay and they don't know what to do about it. And so they have to sort of choose a side. Who do I believe? Who do I defend? Especially if one parent is sort of crying the blues and trying to influence the child against the other parent. Look what your dad is doing to me and to us and that kind of thing. And then we get into parent alienation, which of course we'll talk about as well, But the milder version of this is this divided loyalty situation, which leads to parent alienation syndrome. So, the child has to take a side. And then the court sees this, if there's a custody evaluation, etc., and sends the family to people like me or people like you and say, oh, do this, make them all better.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm admitting to you right now, Lisa, that, after 40 years of experience, the hardest thing I've ever had to try to do is reunification therapy.
Really?
Okay. Oh, yes.
All right, let's get into that because that's a big, obviously, issue in our community where kids have been turned against one parent and the family's ordered to reunification. And it's like, how do you repair a relationship when a child has been brainwashed?
Obviously, it depends on the length of the time they've been brainwashed, and the intensity of it. Okay. How
Give
much
us
the
best
child is
case
brought into it.
scenario. Give us like What's
That's
something that someone,
okay.
at what point should someone say, we need to do something right now?
As early as possible.
So what
As soon as
signs,
the custody, I'm sorry.
like what signs would somebody even know that this is an issue early on? Because a lot of times people miss
Okay.
warning signs early and then it gets worse. So very early on, what would you look for?
Very early on. Okay, this is where child therapy comes into play, of course. Okay. And it's not simply an interview.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. A young child, because it begins then. All right. Uh, Needs to feel comfortable with the therapist. I won't go into all that, of course, but it usually takes a couple, 3 sessions. And my approach is typically to talk to them about whatever's important to them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I let them define the word important. I said, my mommy's important to me. My daddy's important to me. This is, usually the first thing is like Minecraft. And I'll tell you the truth. I've heard 18 description of Minecraft and I don't understand a word of it. Okay. But okay. But anyway, tell me what's important about mom. Now we're talking about children. We already have an emotional language. So 4 or 5 years old, maybe older. Okay. Mom can be important because she's great and we do all kinds of things. Mom can be important because she keeps telling me my dad's no good and I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
But by approaching it this way, instead of saying, tell me about your mom and dad,
Mm-hmm.
tell me what your mom said, because kids get scared of that. They're already scared of that. You know what I mean? Because the parents, well, I can't say this because it'll get my mom in trouble or, where it might be. So just talking about what's important to them, it comes out. All right. With younger children, I'll do it with pictures or the dollhouse, but okay, again. So you can see it early on. Sometimes you can see it in pictures that they draw of the family.
Mm-hmm.
Dad is huge and mom is not as big.
Oh,
Kids have big eyes. They're
really?
being hypervigilant with a very powerful father figure. And mom is subordinate. Or
Mm-hmm.
the other way around. Gives you something to explore when you talk about what's important.
Yeah, especially when you
Yeah.
describe the big eyes, that
Mm-hmm.
hypervigilance that kids don't even know, but they'll draw. That'll come out.
Exactly.
Really interesting.
They'll draw a house with no chimney, no warmth, no
Mm.
grounding. They have no grounding at home. No
So very,
windows.
very
The
symbolic.
child will, yeah, no windows. Child is closed off. This is just basic child therapy kinds of things, but it gives you indications of where to go
Mm-hmm.
when talking with these children and what you need to talk to the parents about. All right. Because no matter how, like this, the parents may be, more often than not, they want what's best for their kids.
Mm-hmm.
And that has to be the focus of reunification therapy, because if you get into the tit for tat, well, he does this and she does that, you're in trouble. And the worst time to get into reunification therapy is during the custody dispute, because
Okay.
the parents come in with an agenda. I want to prove that I'm the good parent and that the other one's not. And it taints the whole thing. In fact, I actually had to go to the judges here in Hamilton County, Cincinnati. It's where I am, because they used to give me court-ordered cases. Please see them for reunification. But Dr. Marcus will not testify in order to preserve the sanctity of the therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I went to them and said, take that out. Take it out. Because when I'm dealing with parents, especially narcissistic parents who insisted they're right and the other person's at fault, I have to be able to go to them and say, if you keep this up and you keep telling this stuff to your kids, I'm going to tell the judge.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to affect your visitation, you know? Because that's in reunification therapy, if one person is alienating the children from the other parent, they have absolutely no motivation for coming into treatment. They're winning.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean? They're winning. So why would they want to? They'll find ways to sabotage it. I had one young man who hated his dad, but every time we met with his dad, things went well. They planned a ski trip together. The guy had money, ski trips together and stuff like that. I remember one time he came in, he was about 13 at that time. And him and dad planned this trip to Aspen and all this great stuff. He said his mom was out in the waiting room. he said, okay, let me go talk to my mom. We'll plan this. He goes out, comes back 3 minutes later with a face this long. I don't think I want to do it.
Yeah.
I don't think I want to do it. And trying to work with that is really, really difficult.
I was going to say, how
because,
do you even respond to that when the child was all excited and then a couple minutes later, it's totally
well,
changed? I mean, what can you do in your role?
this is why it's the toughest stuff to do. I mean, I'm admitting it. The success rate is not great. I can talk to the boy about, hey, what happened? And then sometimes he'll admit it, sometimes he won't. But I know what happened. I've talked to the mom already,
Yeah.
Before. And I'll turn to mom and say, Mom, part of any custody arrangement is, I've never seen a custody agreement that doesn't say this, which is each parent has to support the other parent's relationship with the child and with their family, their extended family. If you keep doing this, the court's going to say, hey, you could end up with supervised visits. You could end up with having a PC,
Parenting
the
coordinator.
PC, yeah, which will cost you $300 an hour. I tell parents, you keep this up, you're spending your kids' college money and your retirement fighting over these things. And the person who keeps doing it is the one who's going to lose. I had one woman who did it so badly, she ended up in jail.
Yeah, we've had that.
Have you had that too? It surprised me, but she was amazing what she would do. But, a pure borderline personality, but okay, that's what she did. So these things can have profound effects, especially on their future relationships, on their sense of themselves, all right? On being depressed, what else can I tell you? And ask me
Okay. Yeah,
something else about it.
I was gonna say that that one of the factors, or you said one of the results or consequences could be depression. And I was thinking about how something I read recently is that kids are hardwired. They're attached to both parents. And it takes something that's artificial to try to break that attachment. And it will affect all of their relationships moving forward because it's harder for them to connect because that original bond has been severed.
That's right.
Is that true, or can you elaborate on that a little more?
Well, the obvious thing is that no matter how bad situation is, abuse, neglect, and everything, whenever I've talked to a child at first, they always wanted their parents back together. They always did, that's the hardwired part. All right.
Yeah.
Now, it's pretty amazing sometimes because the history, and there's been terrible abuse or neglect or whatever it might be, and the children still want their parents to be together. There's a reason for that. And I'm going to explain that right now. I'm going to explain the basic building block of any emotion relationship is that sense that somebody is there for you consistently, both emotionally and physically. All right. This is the basis of what we call trust. When you begin to, for instance, when you're in this courtship phase of a relationship, you spend a lot of time in different situations till you can really trust the person, which means you trust how they're going to react. You can predict them. In children, it's the basis of trust, but it's also the basis of their security. Very young children, infants, they can't even keep an image of their parents in their mind for an extended period of time. I remember one couple had a baby, and friends of mine, and we are exhausted after having the baby. We're going to go for 10 days to Acapulco. And I looked at him and said, no, you're not. Because it's actually something, this is psychoanalytic stuff, but in a young child before they're, mobile, can walk away, on their own, they don't make the distinction between themselves and their parents. Their parents like another arm or a leg, you know what I mean? If they're not there and they can't keep the object constant in their mind, it's like losing an arm or a leg. Wow. And there's something in the psychobabble, if you want to put it that way, called disintegration anxiety. And this can lead to what you're talking about. They're afraid to connect with other people. It's like if they lose them, it's like they're losing part of themselves. It's really more subconscious than anything else, but it's there. All right. So, there's some very profound things here. It's the natural order of things that a parent with an infant is there like that. The child whimpers, you're there. I mean, it's just natural to do that. In neglect and abuse at a very early age, this is what can happen. In fact, if you want the worst case scenario,
Yeah, let's hear it.
okay, abuse and neglect at a very early age, one of the steps of emotional development, the earliest one is the assumption that child actually experiences their emotions. Okay. There are actually, I call them the assumptions of emotionality. They go up the developmental scale, but that's the first one. And this is usually a fairly safe assumption to make. Children usually know when they're mad, when they're sad, when they're happy. In cases of a severe abuse and neglect, they divorce themselves from their feelings. All right. I've only seen 2 children in 40 years that I thought this happened to. Because obviously I'm in private practice, and if people are bringing a kid in for private practice, it's not going to be that serious, you know what I mean? But the reason I knew that they couldn't, connect with their own emotions is because they couldn't play. They could not play. The world had intruded so much on their inner self that they couldn't even play.
What did they do? Did they just sit there?
Yeah, they just they don't know what to do. They
Hmm.
can't talk to you. They can't make eye contact. It's really something. And it's very rare, and thank goodness it is, because who I've just described to you is Hannibal the cannibal.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who can do something horrific and feel nothing.
Mm.
You see? Now, again, this is very rare. 2 cases, and, I'm not going to watch, Silence of the Lambs anymore. It's too frightening,
I know.
But,
Yeah, really,
oh, what a
really
movie.
interesting. Yeah, and I
But
think
anyway, yeah.
when people think about children and babies or even fetuses in utero, they think, oh, kids, they're too young to understand what's going on around them. And you're saying that's not true on some level.
Well, what I've said is that children are exquisitely aware
Mm-hmm.
of how their parents feel and the tension in the home. A lot of young children come to me and say, I don't know what's going on, but I can't stand the yelling. The yelling is the thing that bothers them the most. They don't even know what it's about. It's just they'll go to their room and try to play or hide under their covers. That's a big one.
Mm.
One kid hid in his closet that I saw. They just can't stand the feeling of their parents yelling at one another. And at an early age, they don't understand it. Older kids, 7 years old, they understand it, and they wish their parents would stop fighting. And they say, they try to appease and placate and all that. Teenagers say, "I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to hear it." So there's profound effects, is what we're talking about.
Yeah. I remember reading something a few years ago also that said that when people stay for the sake of the kids, but it's this awful environment, that it's actually
Yeah,
like for a child, it's like being in a war zone because home is supposed to be a place of safety, and then there's
that's
nowhere
right.
for them to go.
I agree with that to a certain degree. It's a blurry line, Lisa, to tell you the truth.
Mhm.
If the parents are at a hammer and tongs, of course you're right. I talk to parents about when I see them as a couple. This is what you're trying to achieve. A couple of things. The term I use is a soothing presence. What is a soothing presence? This is in my book, by the way. Which I'll plug later. But
Yeah,
anyway,
good.
the a soothing presence in its simplest form, Lisa, is someone who's okay when you're not okay. When you think about people as adults, if we think about the people we turn to when we're feeling intense emotions, certain friends, maybe certain family members, very certain people, and invariably they're okay when we're not.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, as a therapist, and you may do this with your people too, that's what we're trying to achieve for them. We're being a soothing presence for them. The reason I say presence rather than person is because the environment has to be soothing.
Hmm.
Now, we're getting into some sociological things, parents stress from jobs, two-income families, all kinds of stresses can impact and impinge upon being a soothing presence, you see. So I talk to people about lifestyles sometimes, how they have to change it sometimes in order to be there and available for their children. In this day and age, to get a little more sociological, two-income families, the computers at home, people are working from home to keep up. When's their time with their kids?
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? When
Right,
do
but
they sit
it's like,
down to
oh, I'm home, so I feel like I'm home and I'm around my kids, but I'm never actually paying too much attention.
Right, right. And if they're fighting as well as that, they're using all their emotional resources just to deal with how they're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so the child is sort of left in the lurch. The parents are doing things that are upsetting them, but they can't talk to their parents about it. Where do they go? You see what I'm saying? A lot of
Yeah.
times they internalize it. They blame themselves, like I said. Uh, the other thing that's really, I'm giving you a whole hodgepodge. I hope this
No,
is
I love
helpful.
it. I was going to say, what are some things that parents can do to help kids in these situations? So you just gave me an awesome tip about a soothing presence. So keep going.
Okay, um, if parents, I tell parents this, they once loved each other, now they hate each other. That's high conflict. And they're making an assumption that is erroneous, and I'll explain it to you. When you think about love and hate, it's like polar opposites. If we had a scale of emotions, love would be here, hate would be there. That's a fallacy.
Mm-hmm.
Love and hate are actually very closely related emotions. Maybe you're shaking your head. I think you
Oh,
know
yeah,
this already.
because you're
Yeah.
still connected
And
so closely because of those strong emotions.
yeah. And what parents need to understand is that, and you, I explained it in one sentence. You can't hate somebody you don't care about,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
If a total stranger comes up to you and says, I don't like you, what do you care? They're a total stranger. If your best friend comes up to you and says, you're a pain in the neck, it hurts. And you
Yeah.
get mad, you see? You see this in little kids all the time. 1 minute, you give them a little toy, they're ecstatic. And then you take the toy away from them because they go to dinner. I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. You know what I mean? It's like, it's very obvious, if you think about it and go, huh, how could, people can switch back and forth really quickly. And in most emotional relationships, they do.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to learn how to deal with that. And we get into something very individual, which is called regression, which affects children. If I'm going too far afield, you break in on me
No, you are
anytime you
not.
want.
This is amazing, helpful information.
Okay. Okay. There is a natural process called internalization. Things we take in almost subliminally as we grow up. Another sociological example of this is prejudice. It's not like somebody takes you aside when you're 17 years old and say, okay, now you're going to start hating this person or these people or anything like that. Because at 17, you've had your own wealth of experiences with people. Go, why would I do that?
Mm-hmm.
But when you're young, you don't have those experiences and you feel the tension and you hear the jokes or you hear the aspersions and everything like that. It gets in there.
Mm-hmm.
To take it one step further, Yugoslavia. I'm really far afield here, but
No,
Yugoslavia.
no, keep going.
Okay. The Serbs and the Croats have fought each other forever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's like the Greeks and the Turks, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. And for 72 years, they were under the thumb of the Soviet Union. They were not allowed to fight anymore. They were under a dictator. As soon as the Soviet Union failed and they became Yugoslavia again, they began to fight again.
Mm-hmm.
3 generations had passed. They don't have personal experiences why they should hate each other, but they do. It's just internalized over the course of this type of thing. The reason I bring it up is because one of the things that's internalized by our children on this subliminal level is how we react to stress. Okay. This is why children who are abused can often become abusive parents.
Mm-hmm.
Because when they regress, what regression means is they fall back on old ways of dealing with things, which is typically an internalized response. Okay. So they were abused. They saw that when their parents got stressed, they got aggressive. They swear up and down and sideways, and they're being absolutely sincere that they would never do that to their own kids.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But under the stress, especially unexpected stress, and children, as you know, are wonderful at doing that. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, they can regress back to hitting.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's passed on and passed on. You see, explaining this to parents where they regress to has been very helpful for me in dealing with couples. Actually, it's actually saved some marriages because all of a sudden they realize, hey, it's not my spouse. It's I'm stressed. I'm going back to things that happened way before I was married.
Mm-hmm.
That's inside me. And once they understand that, they can sort of start communicate about, hey, how do we avoid the regression so we can actually communicate more effectively with one another?
Wow.
Yeah, So this when I see a family, or I see everybody, because you have to work sort of all ends against the middle to make this soothing environment. When I tell parents who are getting divorced in high conflict, what you're trying to achieve here is indifference, because the opposite of loving somebody is not hating them, it's being indifferent to them.
Yep, that's a huge part of what Chris and I work on with our clients, and they have
Great.
such a hard time, and they're so reactive, especially in their communication. So we keep saying we have to
Well,
notice it for what it is and stop feeding it with your precious
and you're right.
attention.
And I'll tell you why it's difficult. I feel like I have an answer for everything. I don't, but I'll sing you a song later or something like that. But anyway, um, in my book, I talk about an emptying out process, which is different than catharsis. Right? I'm going to explain filled up and emptied out, and hope this, again, we're trying to stay on topic, but you're raising great questions, and I want to make sure we understand what's going on. What happened? Okay, this is how I explain it. We all have a space within us, and we think about cycle and emotional space, which we point to our chest, but obviously it's in our head.
Mm-hmm.
And this space, this psychological space, can get filled up with intense emotion. In little children, it can be intense glee, but most of us, it's anxiety, fear, anger. All right. And we know when we're getting filled up. That's the interesting part, because we have phrases that describe it. I've had it up to here.
Mm-hmm.
The straw that broke the camel's back. The reason I bring this up is because when we're filled up with intense feeling, it's uncomfortable, feels intense, like we're not in control of our feelings, which can scare us and make us anxious, because sometimes we don't know where they're coming from. So what do we do as human beings? What we do is we focus inwardly and dealing with how we feel. And again, this can take us away from what our children are dealing with, but I'm going to stay on this right now. We focus inwardly on how we feel, and we do something about it. We may journal. We may talk to a soothing presence and try to figure it out.
That's the
We'll,
healthy ways people deal with it.
we can kick the dog too. I hope they don't do that. But, they can go for a run, watch TV, distract us, whatever it is. But the point I'm trying to make is that since they're focused inwardly by definition, they're not focused outwardly.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody is feeling that filled up, they don't hear what you're saying. You can give the most logical explanation for why they shouldn't feel the way they do, or explain the situation away. They don't hear it. The best example I can give you is if you've ever seen somebody in a rage. I'm sure you have in the people that you deal with.
Mm-hmm.
You ever hear the phrase, a blinding rage?
Yes.
That's true. When somebody is that filled up with anger, they're pretty much blind to anything that's going on around them. They'll hear maybe that 5% or the tone of voice that somehow supports their rage, and they get even angrier. And then the person who's trying to explain things goes, I can't talk to you. And there's the beginning of the wall of communication right there.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
Yeah.
So in order to even have the person hear you, you have to empty them out. And here's the part that I'm emphasizing in the book that I've written. You have to empty them out on 3 levels. And what you're talking about is, I'm going to relate it to what you just said, as far as it's so hard for them to get past it. All right. The most superficial level is the here and now. And I use a silly example, you should take out the garbage. And we have lots of words to describe why you should take out the garbage. It smells, it's your job, blah, 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 fine. That's easy. The next deeper level is the history level. This is the 7th time I've asked you to take out the garbage, and you haven't done it. Obviously, the reaction will be stronger. But if you were not aware of the history, you turn to that person and go, what's the big deal? Why, so they didn't take out the garbage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The logic breaks down. All right? I don't understand you. The deepest level, and these are my own terms, is the tapped into level. The fact that you didn't take out the garbage after I asked you 7 times means you don't listen to me. I hate when people don't listen to me. My brother used to pick on me and never listen to me. My mother would side with him. This one can go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The shame of it is most of the intensity of the reaction that fills people up comes from those deeper levels.
Yeah.
And so people try to argue logically about something that's totally emotional, and they get nowhere because, it just fills them up more, because you're not listening. So you can address these things. If a person says to you, the here and now is right there, the explanation of what's going on. When a person's talking on the history level, when they say you always do this, so you never do that.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're responding to previous experiences.
Always and never.
Right, the generalizations. But that's because we're talking emotional perceptions. Once you perceive somebody a certain way, you tend to keep seeing them that way and find reasons to keep seeing them that way. So after a while, it's cut in stone,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The deepest level is when you do that, it makes me feel like this, and my brother did that, than what I just explained. All 3 levels have to be emptied out in a very certain way by being a soothing presence and active listening and mirroring back all the things that I'm sure that you and I both do. But you have to get to all those levels. So the person says, this person is really hearing me and taking me seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're throwing another word in here, when somebody feels really listened to and taken seriously, they feel respected. It also gives them the hope that things can get better. And that's what therapy really is trying to give people the hope things can get better. I've had teenagers walk in, don't talk to my parents, they're a pain in the neck, blah, 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 they're terrible. And after 3 or 4 sessions where we're talking about why their parents are so
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, and with my understanding and being okay with what they're telling me, and they're beginning to trust me, being predictable with them, they say, can you talk to my mom about this? Can you talk to my dad about that? Sure. What would you actually like me to say?
Mm-hmm.
And here's another part of therapy. I want to use their words, not mine.
Mm-hmm.
What I try to develop with my patients, and I advise parents about this, is you're not only trying to develop an emotional language with your child, for your child, so they can go from behavior to talking, which we all have to learn how to do, use your words kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you're trying to find a common emotional language with them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where parents fall down all the time, and it's subtle. They make assumptions saying, well, I assume that you experience sadness the same way I do. And they relate it to their own experiences. Oh, I went through that, and this is trying to say, hey, you can get through this. Misery loves company. This is what you should do.
And they stop listening.
You got it. They stopped emptying out. Now, if it was you talking to somebody, who you trusted, you would say to them, just hear me out. If it was not somebody you were that close to and they started doing that, you say thank you and go find somebody.
Right.
You can say, just hear me. It's the same way with our kids. The only difference is a child of 5 is not going to turn to you and say, Mom, just shut up and listen.
Right.
You
Yeah.
see?
As
So they'll go, uh-huh, uh-huh.
as you're talking, I'm thinking about so many of the parallels when we teach negotiation with somebody who's got some personality issues, and how important it is to find some common ground and to make that person feel heard. We often say you stop talking and just try to actively listen. It's really hard, but that's the best way to do it. But I'm just conscious of the time, David, but I could keep
Oh,
talking to you
yeah.
for hours. This has been so
Is,
helpful. Can you,
I'm
before we run out, can you we didn't even introduce you. Can you say exactly
I'm Dave Marcus, by the way. I
who
play
are
Celtic
you?
music. I do musical. No.
But tell us a little bit about your background and about your book, and I cannot wait to get it and read it.
Okay, thank you very
So
much.
excited.
Okay, I'll give you the title of the book, which I always have to read because it's it's long.
Okay, go ahead.
All right.
I got my pen.
The title of the book, Parent RX, like parent prescription.
Uh-huh.
Subtitle is Prescriptive Wisdom, Tips and Strategies for Communication with Your Child.
Okay.
That's the name of the book, okay? That was my ageless idea, but okay, I'll go along with it.
All right, got it.
My website is parentrx.org. And a lot of these podcasts that I'm doing, I put on my website, of course, okay? And so they can hear all about emptying out and all these other things that we're going to touch upon and in the book itself, well, I've been in practice. I have a doctorate in clinical psychology. I've been in practice for 40 years. I've done a lot of custody work and worked with the courts on high conflict divorce quite a bit. I was the president of the Cincinnati County of Psychology. I've got credentials, so I'll put it that way, and that's not the important thing. Actually, in my office, I have my credentials on the wall, my license, my degree, and all that, but I don't put it where that people can see it when I'm talking with them.
Mm-hmm.
I want the space to be theirs, not mine. I've been to therapists that have a glory wall. No, no. you know. Anyway, that's for another book, which I'm going to try to write for therapists rather than for parents. Okay, but anyway, not yet. I'm getting ahead of myself. But anyway, I've been practicing, and working with the courts and with families. I've specialized in families going under stress, which is very, very broad because most families are going under
Right,
stress.
even when they're not in the
But
middle of it.
yeah, but it attracts people to my practice because I can relate to that. We are under stress. We need help, and if they use the we, I'm at an advantage rather than he's doing this and she's doing that.
We do the
We
same.
just
Let's use the word we. Yep.
We as the merger. We as when I talk to them, what can we do about it? When I talk to parents about it, I'm be thinking in my head, boy, are you messing this thing up? But you can't say that to parents, because you're the doctor. And when they're walking in there, that's the worst thing they can hear. They're sitting there like this. I hope he doesn't tell me I'm really messing up with my kid. You know what I mean?
We get in trouble.
Yeah. So I always talk about, well, we're just going to tweak what you're already doing.
Mm-hmm.
That works. You have to find phrases.
We use the same
that
language
work.
with our clients, like with the communication. We put them on what we call a permission slip plan. Say you send us what you think you're going to say, and we will help tweak it for you. So you're
I
ready.
do that.
Yeah.
I sometimes have people send me there, or I look on Family Wizard or something like that. I'm writing this to my ex. What do you think, Dr. Marcus?
Yes.
And I'll do that. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because it's important. Because of the history.
Yeah.
That history level. Here we go again. And they get filled up immediately from the history level, and things fall apart.
Yeah.
You see? And so making them aware of their history, making them aware of where they regress to on an individual basis can really, really help, so that instead of having a true regression where, back to square one kind of regression, it's a regressive episode. We know what's going on. Something is stressing us. Let's deal with that as a couple. You see, that can be very hard for people with this horrible history.
For sure, but it's
So I'm not making. Well, this is why therapy takes a long time. I mean, these reunification cases can take quite a long time.
Oh, we know.
You know.
We know. So David, I definitely want to have another conversation with you because there's so much that you have. Can you remind people, grab your book and read the title again? And when is it coming out, or is it out already?
Well, it's being
the new
promoted right now to the publishers by my agent. I'll let you know when it comes out. I'll let the world know when it comes out. But okay, hold on a second.
Yes.
Parent RX: prescriptive wisdom, tips and strategies for communication with your child. And this website is parentrx, one word, .org. Or you can look it up under my name, David Marcus.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, David, for coming on and sharing all this stuff. It's like I'm listening and I'm trying to write as many notes as I can without looking away from the camera.
Well, I'm kind of bragging here, but I'm not really. The reason I wrote the book is because the parents that I see would come in with notepads or record some of the sessions, like about the emptying out process, and say, Dr. Marcus, I wish I had you in my ear on Thursday night.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they said, you got to write this stuff down, Plus, in the book, I actually go through scenarios. Parent says, child says, parent says, child says. And I annotate it all. Yeah. So this is what you just accomplished. This is what you're trying to do.
That's so helpful.
And they need, it's not exactly a cookbook. I don't believe in cookbook therapy, but it's creative. You have to be creative. And that's actually the music and everything else that we talked about. I enjoy being creative, and I see psychotherapy as a creative process because every person is different. The moment you think you got it nailed, you don't.
Yep.
And therapists like yourself, like me, have to take that anxiety and say, okay, I can live with this. I need to be creative. I need to keep searching. I call it a mutual exploration with my patients. We together, another merger, are going to figure this out.
Yep. Same. So similar. Well, thank you so much again, David, and much luck and success with the book. I definitely need to get a copy immediately. As soon as I can get my hands on it, you let me know. And I will listen to the Celtic music as soon as I have a chance.
Well, you listen to that.
I will.
I think it's pretty good. Well, I'll brag again. It won an award. The CD won an award. It was named Celtic Release of the Year here in Ohio. Now, the question is, how many Celtic releases that year? There were 7. Okay, so it's not that big of a deal.
Congratulations.
Well, if you ever want me on again, that would be fun.
I definitely do. All right, we will set it up. But thank you so much.
Okay. Take care. It's been a pleasure, Lisa. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.